We are very excited to welcome Annie Haslam, vocalist for the legendary progressive rock group Renaissance, to the program today. You know, the group are about to embark on a 10-city tour here in the Northeast to celebrate their 50th anniversary, and 5 of those dates will feature the Renaissance Chamber Orchestra accompanying them. Annie Haslam has been a part of the group for 48 of those 50 years, but I'll tell you, you hear her voice and time stands still. She sounds just as good as she ever has. Annie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. Nice to speak to you.
I'm so glad to have you here. Let me just say to the audience, see, we chatted for a moment before we went on.
You can share it if you like.
I will. It says on your phone when I called you, it says instead of Fairleigh Dickinson, it was cut off and it said Fairleigh Dickey. Fairleigh Dickey sounds like maybe a less successful guy who hung around in Carnaby Street in the 60s.
Yeah, or you know, just rating somebody. Oh, sorry. There goes the angel, Annie Haslam. Right, voice of an angel. Oops. I've been caught.
Caught out. So can you tell us a little bit about the idea behind this 50th anniversary tour and the special guest?
Well, yes. It's come full circle, really, as far as that goes. I can't believe it, actually. You know, we got back together again, Michael Dunford and I, in 2009, and unfortunately he passed away in 2012, and I decided to carry on with the band because we just recorded an album called Grande Nel Vento, and we couldn't just drop it, you know,
right.
And he would have wanted me to carry on. He would, you know, and of course it's money coming in for publishing for his wife and kids, so it would be, you know, there's no doubt that it was the right thing to do. But, and all of a sudden, it's like time is going by like so quickly. And, you know, we did the album, excuse me, in 2012, we recorded the Keswick Theatre, and that was the anniversary that year of the last show that we did at the Royal Albert Hall with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
Right.
In 1977. And so Ray Tessar, who's my right-hand man in Renaissance now, he's a brilliant man, keyboard player. He's the MD. You know, he's just a very, very gifted man. And when we were over there in England, 2016, we had a meeting with Ian McClay, who's the managing director of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, because he'd sent a letter a couple of years before saying that, you know, they wanted to work with us again, well, which is a wonderful compliment, of course.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm sure they've got many lists of people that want to hire them and play with them, and obviously because they're the best, you know.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you still have to pay them. You know, it's not like they're going to pay you. And so the situation was that we did not have a record deal like we did in the 70s, where, you know, everything was paid for by the record company up front. And we still had a meeting to talk about it and to find out what the budget, you know, how we could make it happen. And, you know, we have done crowdfunding projects, and we have one that's ongoing right now on Indiegogo to help us, you know, record and do this tour, mainly to do the DVD that we're filming.
Right.
Because it's not cheap to have an orchestra. You know, I'm sure everybody realizes that. So what Rave and I did, we had a meeting with Ian, and it was so exciting, and it was like, it was surreal, really, because we were imagining what, you know, oh God, we have to make this happen, you know. But you know, we've done it. Sometimes you need to let things go, because it's like being in a movie like Superman and then doing Superman 2, and it's not quite the same.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's like, it's different people, and it's not that it's taking anything away from anybody, but you know, the 5 of us that did that show at the Albert Hall were the bones of the band at that time, and, you know, the most well known of all because of all the amazing albums that we recorded and wrote and everything. But, you know, with the thought of doing it and to do it in the Albert Hall with this band, because the band is wonderful, 6-piece band now, we've got wonderful musicians, and of course technology has come along in leaps and bounds, and everything's like so different, and everybody playing like 10 parts, and me doing as many flute parts, singing all these different things that I could,
Right.
because John Tout couldn't play them all, he's got 3 hands, and so. But we talked about it and how we could cut corners, and what you have to do is first of all you have to rent the Albert Hall, and then you have to pay another fee for taking in filming equipment, and then you have to pay the orchestra, and then you have to pay the orchestra for rehearsals, then you pay them for the show, and then you have to pay them a recording fee for being on a recording. So it's and of course in the 70s I never knew any of this stuff. Of course, now, because I'm basically the captain of the ship since Michael passed away, it's pretty daunting. But with the help of Rave and some other wonderful people around us, we've managed to keep afloat and like go to Brazil, Japan. We've done 3 DVDs since 2009, and then all of a sudden, we're here, and it's our 50th anniversary, Right. So obviously that's what we wanted to do something different as we could. I mean, the main thing about this will be the music. I wish that we could work more often, but it's very difficult. When you've got a 6-piece band and you want to go over to the West Coast, if you haven't been there for a while, like we haven't, and we kind of came back on the scene in 2009, there's so much time had gone by that promoters, are very dubious about spending money out on an unknown quantity, really. And we didn't, not quantity, that's not the right word, but we didn't have a record label behind us. It was just us and this amazing music and an amazing show. But that's not enough for a promoter to take the chance. So we wouldn't be offered enough money to probably maybe enough just to make our expenses. But that's
Wow.
not, and so we get people asking us all the time, when are you coming to Portland, Oregon, or when are you coming to Los Angeles, and why you're not, and they get very upset, and I keep writing back, but I think a lot of people just don't quite understand what it's like. We're basically surviving, obviously, and the weird thing is we can go to Brazil, no problem, and we're going there in March, and then we went to Japan last September. But to get over to the West Coast is
harder than Japan.
It's ridiculous. It's easy because it's just that they pay enough money to pay for us to go. They they usually pay for the flights and everything, and it's different. And I guess our fans are scattered. And people are saying, no, you got to come to Los Angeles because there's thousands of people. You've got thousands of fans. Well, if you want to send us their email addresses, you know what I mean? So
Right.
that we know that there are that many people and they want a show or they want to, make a donation,
Right.
It's kind of frustrating, really, and but the crowdfunding thing has helped us greatly produce, two sets of DVDs. The last one was 2017 with the orchestra, and then there's this one. And it's still up if anybody wants to help out, because there's still a lot of money to keep going to all the things when we do the production and editing, and it's just a huge amount of money.
Well,
but
this is the one that
doing
Jim
it,
McCarty's going to appear at, right?
Jim McCarty was at my audition, and he was one of the founding members of the Yardbirds with Keith Ralph. And when the Yardbirds split up and everybody went their separate ways, Jim and Keith, instead of having a rest for, they quickly formed a new band called Renaissance,
Renaissance, yes.
And so I was singing in a cabaret group, my first job, a professional singing job in London, and I was there for about 6-9 months, and the guitarist said, Annie, he said, I just seen this advert in the Melody Maker. You got to go for it. Your voice is different. You shouldn't be here singing, dancing in the street. And by the time I get to Phoenix and all that, but it was great experience. Oh my God, I would never change one thing in my life, because we all need experience with life and different people and different countries, and being a waitress is horrible in some ways, but it's a great way to get to know people and
human nature, yeah.
Oh, I think it's, yeah. So what I did, I called up and I said, the band was Renaissance, and they've got an album out, and I went and bought the album. And I'm not sure the album's called Kings and Queens, because that's the title track, or whether I think could be just Renaissance.
Yeah.
And anyway, I loved it, and I learned everything on it, and I went for my audition, and I looked the part. I got a full-length tapestry coat, a Bieber coat. Bieber was very popular then in London. And I wore my Bieber coat, my hair was parted in the middle, and I think I got a long skirt on, with boots or whatever.
Dressed to the nines, yeah.
So, yeah, and and then I just knew, I just felt that as soon as I started learning the song, I thought it was so easy for me to sing it. And so I got the job. They called me the next day, New Year's Day, 1971, and within 3 weeks we were touring in Germany. But Jim McCarthy and I stayed in touch. He was at my audition. I think he was involved in one of the albums when we did a song called We're on the Frontier. In fact, I think he might have wrote that song, actually, written that song. But we stayed in touch, and we've been friends over the years. And I've been to see him in New York. A couple of years ago, I went to see him in New York playing. And when it came up, the idea of the 50th anniversary, well, it was obvious to me that I wanted to do that,
Yeah.
There was nothing else really that I wanted to do other than that. It's to go right back to the roots of the band and bring him in. And he was really excited to do it. And he's not playing drums. He's going to be playing guitar. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do the song that got me the job, Island. And we did that actually in 2017 with the orchestra. I said to Rave, I want to do this song. It got me the job. He said, yes. Oh, it's fabulous. And we did it. And now we're going to do it with Jim playing. It's wonderful.
That's the show that's going to be filmed, right? That one?
Yeah, it's going to be filmed at the Keswick, yeah. He's not coming to all the shows. He's only coming to the Keswick.
Just that's the special one that's going to be filmed for DVD and Blu-ray. Stay right there, Annie. We'll be back in just a minute with part 2 of this conversation. Here's I Think of You by Renaissance from Turn of the Cards. Spare Some Love from Renaissance from the Prologue album here on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. Annie Haslam, lead singer of Renaissance, is our guest today. And you mentioned this earlier about shows in Japan and Brazil and the poor folks in Portland who are waiting for you. But you've got these shows here on the East Coast, and there's always been this sort of connection between the group and New York, New England, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and it seems we're sort of like the Renaissance stronghold over here. How do you account for that?
Well, in the 70s, on NEW FM, we had Alison Steele. Do you remember Alison Steele?
Of course, the Nightbird. Yeah,
and she became a close friend, actually. That was she got very ill, and actually I was asked to sing at her funeral, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. She was wonderful. She became a good friend as well. And she had a little book of poetry. In fact, her sister gave me a book of her poetry, and she'd mark out these little lines that she'd say every night when she opened a show, And she was responsible for putting us on the map along with, Yes, and Genesis, and all of us in that field, really. And the other person who also became a very close friend indeed with his wife was Ed Sharkey, who was at WMMR in Philadelphia at the time. Mm-hmm. And he's another one. He always used to boast that he'd had Billy Joel, Barry Manilow, and Bruce Springsteen all sleeping on his sofa in the 70s when they had no money, nowhere to stay.
Right.
And me, but not all together.
No, well, that would have been a heck of a photo.
Oh yeah.
But and you've also played here at Fairleigh Dickinson University.
Yes. In fact, I'm divorced now from him, but he's a good friend, Mark Hoffman, and that's the reason I moved over here. Actually, it was to be with him. That's where he was going to college. I think he might have been on the music committee or something, Students' Union music committee or something like that. And his brother Jeff, he told his brother Jeff when he met me backstage, he said, I'm going to marry her one day. And he did.
Well, he was good. He was true to his word.
Yes, yeah.
So you've even appeared here at Fairly Dicky, which is now what I'm going to be calling. People do.
Well, at least, Fairly Dicky.
People usually refer to this as Fairly Ridiculous. That's the. But, yeah.
That's funny.
Now,
Fairly Ridiculous. That's good.
I have to tell you, when I mentioned that you were going to be on, I put the word out to some listeners. For questions. So I hope you don't mind if I throw a couple of questions.
No, that's fine, yeah.
And these questions come from far and wide. We have listeners all over. I have a listener and a friend who lives in Russia.
Oh.
I asked him for a question, and he gave me about 30. So I've chosen one out of all of these.
Well, thank you.
So I picked one here because it sort of ties into the current tour.
Yeah.
His favorite album is Ashes Are Burning.
Yes.
Which I believe is the first album that the group released that had an orchestra accompanying it.
Yes, it was, yep.
Yeah, and he's wondering if it's your favorite and if you remember anything about those particular sessions.
No, it's not my favorite. I mean, the thing is, people ask me, I love all of them. I'm very close. I love nearly almost all of them, as the same as each. I just love the music. That's why I'm still doing it. I don't want to stop. But, I mean, I enjoy it. I think it's a wonderful piece. We're going to orchestrate it. It's going to be with orchestra for the first time ever in its life on this tour, yeah. Basically, the story behind it, Betty didn't say anything for a while, but then she did, that it was about a near-death experience that she had.
Whoa.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Betty Thatcher, right.
Yeah, and so I used to sing the guitar solo for many years and use all my octaves and everything, but I decided because when Mark Lambert came to the band, he was in my solo band as well, and he was with Renaissance towards the end of the band, in the later days, and he was the perfect person to take over Mickey's role. I mean, you can't
replace.
Put somebody in you can't replace, but he's brilliant and he's a great singer, but he's also a great guitarist, so I thought it's better for me not to have to worry about, which I don't really, I probably could do it, but I'm singing more than I ever did because of the pieces that we're doing, and so and it's good to have that guitar thing back in, so he does a guitar solo at the end now, that's really good. And so that's I can step back and sing the final Ashes Are Burning, but he can do the Andy Powell thing,
So I have another listener here.
Yes.
And friend, Rachel, who's a singer, and apparently she told me that she knows Rave or has worked with Rave. So there you go, mutual acquaintance.
Yes.
But she wants to know, when you're not on stage singing your own music, what sort of music are you singing along to in the car or when you're relaxing?
In the car. You know what? I listen a lot to us.
You listen to that?
I do.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange? But when I'm home, I go, Alexa. Now, I didn't want an Alexa. My boyfriend bought me one as a gift for Christmas, and I thought, oh, that's a nice present. That's romantic. But the thing is, you know what? Oh, my gosh, once I got used to it and opened the window in the summer and just let it float out onto my patio, we'd be out there. Alexa, play Milton Nascimento. I love Brazilian music, and Flavio Venturini is another brilliant songwriter and singer in Brazil. Some of that music is and it's so relaxing and calming. It's beautiful. If anybody wants to listen to something different, listen to those people. It's just wonderful music. It really is. And so that's what I listen to mostly. And if I'm painting, I like to put on old English movies. I think that's a comfort thing. I don't know. Even if I'm not watching it, I just like that feeling of the accents in the background, But, no, I love classical music. And I'll tell you who I do love is Nigel Kennedy. Do you know who he is?
Oh, sure, a violin player, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, if you, anybody listening here, you've got to look at the YouTube he did at the Albert Hall. And, oh, God. And he did the Four Seasons at the Albert Hall. and he played the Four Seasons his way. They broke the mold with him.
Yeah.
And he's a fascinating guy. And he married a violin player from the Polish Symphony Orchestra, and I think that's where he lives now, in Poland. But this is just magnificent. I mean, and he's so funny in it, but he's magical how he's put his own stamp on it, and I think Vivaldi would be so thrilled to hear what he's done with it. It's brilliant. So that's something else I like to listen to. So it's mainly Brazilian music, to be honest, and mainly because it kind of calms me down, because I'm doing a job of like 25 people now to keep the band going, and sometimes I get kind of a bit and it just takes it all away. It's wonderful.
So you're no longer singing Dancing in the Street and By the Time I Get to Phoenix.
Thank you, no. And Hava Nagila, what about that one? I had a tambourine with ribbons on it that reached the floor.
I'm going to start to wrap up here, and I'm going to give out those tour dates again.
Oh, no, don't go.
We're fairly dicky here. We have to wrap things up. I did some looking. You mentioned YouTube. So I was looking at YouTube clips of you, and I didn't realize this, and I should have realized this, because Northern Lights was a big hit all over Europe, really, but especially in the UK.
Number 7.
Right, and you appeared on Top of the Pops several times.
Yes, 3 times.
Miming you were miming, right, to the record on that?
We had to.
Yeah, everybody
did. We didn't. Well, nobody wanted to, but I was good at it. I mean, some people weren't so good, but I think if you know the song well and you're playing it on tour and you know it really well, then you're okay. But if it's a new song to you, then that could be a bit of a problem. But there was a band that went on one time, and when you see something and somebody makes a mistake and you really feel bad for them,
right.
as particularly if you know them, right? But I didn't know these people, but it was a young band, and what they did, they went out and they were smiling and everything, and they put the wrong track on them for them to sing to.
Oh, gosh.
But you know what? They didn't take it off. And it was live. It was live, and it was like, and I was just mortified for them, and they didn't know what to do, and everybody was looking around. And it's like, where did the guys go? Did they go for a beer or something that were doing all that? They've just gone out for a pie and chips or something.
Right. You'd think they would just pull the track off and then cut to kids dancing or something in the studio.
Yeah, they did.
Right.
So they must have gone somewhere else.
Right. It's probably an older guy who's like, this music sounds the same anyway. It's not going to matter.
Oh, God. The girl looked like she was going to cry, and it was just, and the cameras were close up on them and everything. So it just shows you where the brains of those cameramen were and everybody else. I mean, it was the 70s.
Yeah, but the group looked great, and you have a different outfit on each time that you appeared on there. Yeah. And it's a good little time capsule, because I just think of who you might have been next to. It was probably like Bay City Rollers and then Renaissance, that's how it was.
It was wonderful, yeah. There was nothing quite like driving along in my car and then listening to Radio 1, which is, of course, the national main station. I don't know whether it still is or not, but... And they said, right now, record of the week, and I think it's on every 20 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, I was driving and going, this is good, woohoo! Open the window, hey, everybody listen to this. It's me,
It's me,
it's me again. And here I am again. Look.
I'll be back in 20 minutes.
Yeah. Did you miss it? Hang on a minute, I'll pull up. There you go, 20 minutes.
Now, my last question here, and this is, it wasn't anything I've written down, but you said that you put on old English movies for comfort food. Give me an example. What kind of movie would you put on?
One of them I love, because I love the writer of this is Rebecca with Laurence Olivier.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. And it's very special because I was brought up, when I was a teenager, we moved to Cornwall for my mother's health. We went from a smoky industrial town, Bolton, down to Cornwall in the seaside. And we ended up staying in this. We had an apartment in in a house overlooking the sea in Polkeris, and Daphne du Maurier, who wrote Rebecca, she lived about 2 miles down the road in a house the place was called Menabilly, and it was Menabilly House, and they fashioned that was the area where they used, or they filmed down. I think they filmed some down somewhere down there as well, whatever. But yeah, she lived down there, and then about when was it? I would say 20 years ago now. God, I can't believe what I'm saying here. 20 years ago, I was visiting Cornwall, and she'd moved from Menabilly to down the road, and she bought this house overlooking Polkeris Bay, and she wrote a book called The House on the Hill, I think it was called, or The House on the Strand, and it was all based around that house, and that house had caves that they had these passages, that went down to the caves where all the pirates were, because the pirates used to come into Polkeris, pirate boats.
Right.
And so she lived in this place that was supposedly haunted, and I was standing at the edge of her property, and it was a field, and all of a sudden I'm just standing there. There she is. She comes walking through the grass, the tall grass. It was like a vision of, what the heck? It was like a movie. And she came up and started talking to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So she wrote The Birds as well. You know that, the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Yes.
She's brilliant.
You said Old English movies, and a part of me was thinking, I wonder what she's going to say. I mean,
yeah. For something funny, I used to love Norman Wisdom. Mm-hmm. And I know you've heard of him. If anybody wants to look him up, it's wonderful. It's not rude. I'm not saying that I don't like rude humour. It's very, very funny humour without having to be rude, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'd watched him growing up when I was a little girl, and I ended up going out with his son.
Wow.
I tell you, the more I think about my life, it's ridiculous. Because I keep, depending on what somebody asks me as a question, and then the light goes off, and I think, oh my God, look at that, I forgot about that. Yeah, I went out with his son. And I got to meet him. I got to meet him, and he took me to his beautiful house. Oh my God! And he's only about 5'4", so is Nick, his son, And he opened the door, and I started laughing in his face. I couldn't stop, and I thought, oh my God, my dad would have loved to have met him, but my father had passed away then. But to see him, and the thing is, he's got that kind of face that it's like, sometimes Jim Carrey. He doesn't have to say a word, and then you fall apart.
Yes.
He had that kind of face, and brilliant. If anybody wants to look him up, oh my God, it's hilarious what he did. But anyway, we've got our website going, and we got a Facebook page, Renaissance Touring. So go, if anybody's interested in going on and looking at what we're doing, it's all on there.
And the tours,
like us and spread the word, because that's the thing, is getting the word out. That a lot of people still don't know who we are, And,
I think they might know around here, because again, the 10th you begin in Annapolis, Maryland, but closer to our area, Town Hall on the 11th.
Yes.
In New York, and then you've got the big Keswick Theater date on the 12th.
Yes.
And then you're in Harrisburg on the 13th at the Whitaker Center, Red Bank at the Count Basie Theater, October 15th. 15th, And then it looks like the next closest would probably be Ridgefield, Connecticut. The Ridgefield Playhouse on the 16th.
Yep.
My God, you don't have a day off. I'm looking at this. It's every day.
Well, you know what? It is a bit tight. We've got four shows to start with. We're rehearsing on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Saturday and Sunday off. Monday and Tuesday, rehearsing with the orchestra. The next day, we drive down to Annapolis for our warm-up show down there. And then we stay there the first night, actually, and then 10th is the first show there. Then we're going to have to drive about an hour to a hotel. See, people don't know this. If it's a really long drive, which it is to New York, you don't want to drive for 4 or 5 hours and then have to drive through New York to get to where you're going to be playing.
Right.
So you have to drive about an hour or so out of where you were, and then get a hotel then, so that the next day you just have 3 hours to drive, But, but we have a lot of fun. We're all fun-loving people. We, there's no egos in the band except mine, and No, I don't. I don't know if I have an ego. I don't know really if I have. I hope I haven't.
Well, you did date Norman Wisdom's son. I mean, that would put...
And I was engaged to Roy Wood, as you know, as well.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Well.
so that was good. I've met some great people in my life. Yeah, Roy Wood's so funny. For the best years of my life, I've never laughed so much in my life as being with him. I love laughter. You know, my father was an amateur comedian singer, so it's part of my upbringing, really. You know.
Oh, was he? Did he do anything? That we would know?
Yeah, wallpapered the living room and that kind of thing. But
okay.
no, he didn't. He was just a dad. It was a working class family, but my brother Michael ended up being managed by Brian Epstein. You know that.
Oh, there you go. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a musical family for sure. We were the three of us were encouraged. Even though they, let me go out to art school, I never knew that I was going to be a painter. I was going to be a dress designer originally, and they encouraged me. I should have gone out to work, really, like my friends, but they let me go to art school instead.
You know, we're going to have you back on the show at some point because we're going to be running out of time.
Okay,
but
all right, yeah. Sorry.
It's wonderful. I just sit back and I ask one question and I'm getting like so much information here. I'm sitting here going, well, I think a book needs to be written. I think there needs to be. Yeah. So RenaissanceTouring.com is the website, and then Renaissance Touring.
Touring is the Facebook, and Annie Haslam Art is my my art. You see all my art on there and lots of different things.
I want to thank you so much for coming on and spending this time with us. It's been lovely to speak with you, and we look forward to seeing you on this tour, and especially the Keswick Theater Show, because that's going to be historic.
That's going to be recorded, and basically I did play that with my solo band. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, in the 90s I was there doing something. I can't remember what it was now.
Well, that's a very nice theater.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, so we need everybody to come there.
All right.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
You have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.